AJ Millikin was a unique witness to the JFK assassination, and being unique is not a reason to ignore a witness, as the lone nutters would have you believe. Being unique is a reason to pay attention to what a person says. That is, you want to study the people who saw things and heard things rather than the people who didn't see things and hear things. That's how you find out what happened. And I think Millican is an important witness, and he was almost completely ignored. And this is the only word we have from him on the official record. I was going to say he made this statement on the day of the assassination, but the statement isn't dated, so I'm not sure of that. But I'll just read that anyway. It says, works for Sam P. Wallace and Claude Beard Plumbing Company, fabricating pipe for the Republic Bank building at the end of the Katy Railroad Yards and the west end of Pacific Street. I was standing on the north side of Elm Street, about halfway between Houston and the underpass. About 5 or 10 minutes before the president came by, I observed a truck from Honest Joe's pawn shop and parked by the book depository store. Then drove off about 5 or 10 minutes before the president's car came by. Just after the president's car passed, I heard 3 shots come from up toward Houston and Elm, right by the book depository building, and then I immediately heard 2 more shots come from the arcade between the bookstore and the underpass, and then 3 more shots came from the same direction, only sounded further back. It sounded approximately like a .45 automatic or a high-powered rifle. Then everybody started running up the hill. A man standing on the south side of Elm Street was either hit in the foot or the ankle and fell down, and then I went on back to work. Now, a lot of people like to laugh at this witness, the same as J.C. Price. They like to pick out something and laugh at it. One thing they like to pick out and laugh at is that he saw a man on the south side of Elm Street get shot in the foot or the ankle. And they say, well, that's ridiculous. This man is hallucinating. However, there is somebody on the south side of Elm Street who was running and fell down, and it looks as if you didn't know for sure, you might think he was shot in the foot or the ankle. I think this is Malcolm Summers, and that's a reasonable conclusion. If they're shooting and you see this guy do what he did, you might think that he was shot in the foot or the ankle. And I think this demonstrates that Millican is a very observant witness. He sees things that happen. I don't know anybody else who mentioned Malcolm Summers doing what he did here, but Millican saw that, and his conclusion was incorrect, but it was a reasonable conclusion based upon what was happening. And before getting to the content of the statement itself is unique in that it's on a different stationery. They're both Sheriff Department stationery, but you can see at the top the header is different. Millican's statement is the only one on this stationery, and all of the others look like the one on the right here. And also, the one on the right has a signature of a notary public, and it's dated on the bottom, whereas A.J. Millikin's statement, even though it is signed, is not dated, and there's nothing identified anyway as a notary public signing it. We do have a signature on the side here. It says by ERD's DPD. And I found this bio of Edgar Dees online, and apparently he is the same person who took A.J. Millikin's report. This is all unique. Another thing unique about Millican. I think unique means you should pay attention to it. I don't know if this is significant or not, that somebody who didn't take the other affidavits took Millican's. If it appears on a different stationery, it's the only one like this. I don't know if that's significant or not, but I think it's worth noting, and maybe somebody else knows something. Edgar Dees, I don't want to get into it here, but again, he's one of these people who ends up working for the sheriff's department after retiring from the Dallas Police Department. There's a lot of them like that, and they're all suspicious characters as far as I can tell. So there it is, for what it's worth. Now, going back to Millican's statement, he said he was working for Sam P. Wallace and Claude Beard Plumbing Company, fabricating pipe for the Republic Bank building at the end of the Katy Railroad Yards in the west end of Pacific Street. I don't know why he'd be doing fabricating pipe in the railroad yard for a bank building project that's blocks away, but that's what he says he's doing. Up in the upper right-hand corner, I've got Howard Brennan from his statement. He said he is presently employed by Wallace and Beard, the same company that Millican is, and he's working here in Dealey Plaza as a steam fitter. And he's working in he's on the same job as Millican. They may not be working in the same spot, but he's on the same job. So from this I conclude that Millican is a steam pipe fabricator. He does not say he's a steam pipe fabricator, he just says he's fabricating pipe, but I think it's reasonable to conclude that Millican also is working on steam pipes. Now, this is a graphic I made to illustrate the work situation here. The red star on there is the end of Pacific Street, and that's the west end of Pacific Street. He says Millican says that they were fabricating pipe at the end of the Katy Railroad Yards and the west end of Pacific Street. And in his statement, he says that after the shooting, he went on back to work, and we see in the green rectangle there, Millican is walking west on Elm Street towards the overpass. So the red star is the west end of Pacific Street. The blue star is about where he witnessed the assassination, and the green star is about where he's walking towards going back to work. So he's walking to the overpass, or walking towards the overpass in order to go back to work. So I think that means he was working on steam pipes on the overpass, and that would probably correspond to what he calls the end of the Katy Railroad Yards, rather than the west end of Pacific Street. So I think there are two work areas, and when he's going back to work, he's walking towards his work area, which is the area of the overpass. And there is a steam pipe that runs over the overpass. It originates at the train station south of Dealey Plaza, and it runs north over the overpass here, and this is the north end of the overpass, the same side of the street that Millican is walking on when he's going back to work. And it goes off the photo here, but it doesn't go east at all. It just goes north, and it terminates at the railroad tracks. And the purpose for the steam use of this pipe anyway was to heat passenger cars so that commuters could go home in warm railroad cars. And this is the steam pipe that Weitzman burned his hands on too. But anyway, because Millican is walking here, and this is the only steam pipe down this end of the railroad yard, then I think it's reasonable to conclude that AJ Millikin is working on this steam pipe on the day of the assassination. This photo was taken the day after. And I find that to be very significant because I think Clyde Haygood was standing on a steam pipe here, but has been removed from the photo. He's standing on something, and this photo has been doctored. I've adjusted the contrast and brightness here to demonstrate the cut and paste. And so the fact that AJ Millikin is working on the steam pipe, and that before the assassination, or I should say immediately after the assassination, Clyde Haygood was standing on a steam pipe that is no longer there afterwards, I think that means that a trick was done with the fence there, and that was involved in the shooting of JFK. And I have a video about that, so I'll say no more here. But the significance of Millican to this point is that we know that on that very day, Millican was working on that steam pipe. So that might explain partially why we can't see it after the assassination. It's not there anymore, but it was there when Clyde Haygood was standing on it. And of course, Millican's description of the shooting is very interesting. I heard 3 shots come from up towards Houston and Elm, right by the book depository building. Well, those are probably the shots coming from one of the windows. And then immediately I had 2 more short shots from the arcade between the bookstore and the underpass. So here's 2 shots from around where Zapruder is. And then 3 more shots came from the same direction, only sounded further back. It sounded approximately like a .45 automatic or a high-powered rifle. Well, the way he's describing it is if he gets 3 from one place and then 3 from another and then 3 from another. I think probably this is mixed up in his memory, and there are many examples where you can demonstrate how a witness has mixed up things when you compare it to what they said to the photography. But I think this means that there were shots from 3 different areas that he heard, and the nutters, they like to add up. Most people heard 3 shots, therefore there were only 3 shots. But it's clear that some people start counting shots at different places. Some people start with a throat shot, and some people start before the throat shot. So even the nutters favored witnesses, if you take into consideration what they're saying compared to each other, even most of them are saying 4 shots if you know there's a shot before the throat shot. And I think what this means, and when you hear different people saying different shots from different places, I don't think it means you just take the majority and go with that. I think it means shots came from different places, and there were more than 3 shots. And I'm not going to get into the specific analysis of this here, but I think Millican probably gives the best description we have of the shots and where they come from. And Millican also mentioned having seen Honest Joe parked at the Texas School Book Depository building. The FBI did talk to Honest Joe, of course, who didn't say he did anything wrong. But there are other indications that Honest Joe could have been involved with the delivery of a weapon to the Texas School Book Depository building. I'm not going to discuss that here, but I think what little there is on Honest Joe is very interesting, as this photograph illustrates. And I don't see any proof that Millican was ever heard from again. All I've found is this, and it comes from Jim Marrs. And ever since I saw Jim Marrs talking about the ancient aliens coming here to rob Earth of its gold, I find it difficult to rely on anything he says. But here it says, Sandy Speaker's supervisor of Warren Commission star witness Howard Brennan would not discuss the assassination until recently. I don't know when he was writing this, probably the 80s. After getting a phone call from his friend and co-worker AJ Millikin. Speaker said he got a call from Millican early in 1964. Millican was almost in tears and told him never to talk about the assassination. Millican said he had just received an anonymous call threatening not only his life, but the lives of his wife and her sister, and said the caller told him to warn Speaker to keep his mouth shut. Alright, I'm not going to read the rest of that. I'm not sure if it's real or not, coming from Jim Marrs. But anyway, I think Millican was a very interesting witness. I think real investigators would have to have spoken to him and would have to have tried to figure out what it is he heard. And the fact that they didn't is just another one of the multitude of indications that we did not get a real investigation of the murder of President Kennedy.